Tell me if I'm wrong. How inspiring was it to actually hear somebody have the balls to stand up and say what obviously many, many people think? Why don't people like you behave like that in this country, Gullis?
I hardly think, Jeremy, I've ever been accused of not saying what I think, and I've certainly said some things that's upset all the right people in the media, but ultimately got the backing of the country, even if sadly it meant that I wasn't able to win enough votes at the last election because of obviously things out of my control. But let me be clear, Jeremy, that was a very uplifting, positive outlook speech. Simple, basic things like there's only two genders. Hallelujah. Drill, baby, drill. If only Ed Miliband could get aboard that agenda and use the liquid gold we have in the North Sea, rather than trying to put solar farms everywhere and rely on wind, even though the wind doesn't always blow. And to say that there was a national emergency on the border, using the troops to defend their southern border, to throw everything at it to make sure that people in this country are safe, particularly after we've seen the court case today with the Southport trial that's going on. I appreciate we can't comment further. But I think it's so important to understand that this is exactly the optimism, the boosterism, the hope that people in this country, as your listeners have been saying in the text messages coming in, want to hear from politics. And if Keir Starmer's got anything about him, he would roll out the red carpet to Donald J. Trump with a state visit, allow him to address Parliament, allow him to have a state banquet, and allow him to come to this country and actually pull us in the right direction.
But you know as well as I do, that's his problem, and that's because his tent was so wide. He tried to get everybody... Oh, look at the pictures on YouTube. This is embarrassing. So the helicopter's going to take them back to wherever. I love this. Does Trump get in the helicopter and Biden gets on the bus? Because I've never seen, by the way, anybody whose career is over look happier. I'm convinced that Joe Biden is like this. I'm just going to go... I'm out of this rubbish now, and I'll tell you something, right? Whatever anybody says, I beat him. Nobody else did. She's a loser. I'm off. That's what I think. But anyway, back to the main thing. I have to say, for me, to hear a man... And there's been many things, and I'll make this point because there'll be detractors. There's many people who would agree with me. There's been stuff said in the past that I don't agree with, OK? There's been things that Donald Trump has said and done that I don't agree with. But I will say this. When you hear somebody say, I get you're worried about immigration, I get you're worried about net zero, I get you worried about our schools being infected with a left-wing ideology that says, you know, there's 47 different types of human being and it doesn't matter whether you're good at something or not if you're a certain... No, that's all rubbish, isn't it? He seems to me, you know, to have understood, clasped and got hold of what millions of Americans want. You said about Starmer, he can't do that. He can't embrace Donald Trump because the left of his party would go mad. I guess there will be politicians, maybe you're one of them, who will think that the special relationship will endure. But if I was guessing at one thing, I would say that Donald J. Trump will not forget that Starmer sent people to support Kamala Harris. I just believe it. I just think that's the way. Oh, God, that's good. Poor old Kamala's got to go in a little cab now. She's not in the helicopter anymore. Bye-bye.
Well, like you say, Jeremy, as well, it's not just the fact that we had 100, I think, Labour operatives, activists out there campaigning against Donald J. Trump. It's all the horrendous thing that people like things like David Lammy, but also Sir Keir Starmer himself has said in the past about Donald J. Trump that already makes this an awkward and difficult transition in some ways, because obviously the relationship is on to a rocky start. And it's I think it says a lot that, for example, Nigel Farage, Boris Johnson, Priti Patel are all out in Washington, Suella Braverman as well, yet no sign of any headline Labour politicians. And what we're now waiting to find out is, number one, will Peter Mandelson, Sir Keir Starmer's choice for ambassador, even be approved? And secondly, the Chagos Islands, an important piece of territory that we hold facing towards China that has an important army base that we share with the Americans. Sir Keir Starmer, bizarrely, not only wants to give that away, but pay £9 billion for the pleasure of doing so, 6 years' worth of winter fuel allowance. And I pray Donald J. Trump quickly announces that he will not agree to any such deal and puts Sir Keir Starmer back in his place. Why anyone would want to weaken our country at a time when we are facing existential threats from around the world is beyond me. And it's, again, that strength that Donald J. Trump exhumes, and the fact that dictators, dangerous people, don't understand nor know how serious or not Donald J. Trump is.
Can I just jump in? I agree with JG, everything you say. It's quite interesting, this. So Kamala Harris has been packed off in a cab. We're now watching, if you're watching on YouTube, I don't know what the helicopter's called, Air Force 3, I don't know what it's called. This massive helicopter is now taking Donald J. Trump, Melania, Joe Biden and Mrs. Biden. Well, they're all standing by the helicopter. So are they flying together? I've no idea. But it is extraordinary that Donald J. Trump has just spent 40 minutes telling the world that everything that Joe Biden did was basically rubbish. I know you want to say. And now he's sort of, his wife's kissing him and he's saying, well done. Now Joe's getting on the helicopter. Where's Biden? When Biden's going on the helicopter, where's the president going? Hold on. Biden's leaving Washington. Terrari's gone. That's it. Helicopter's gone. Donald Trump's going back to work.
Jeremy, I think my understanding is that Biden now goes off to wherever I think he wants to go, normally home, and then Trump will be on his way into the White House. And I think, was it 200 executive orders essentially that are being rumoured over the next week? I think 100 they want to get signed today. So he's got a lot of writing to do today. But what a relief to hear someone who's not scared to say it as it is. And like you, I don't agree with everything Donald Trump says. I have a different view to him, for example, on Ukraine. But let me be clear, I respect the fact that he doesn't pander to the media, doesn't pander to left-wing activists, doesn't pander to even people in his own party at times who are, let's be honest, out of touch with the reality of the country. And I wish that we in the Conservative Party, under Kemi Badenoch, find that strength to not worry about upsetting people on Twitter or upsetting people on TikTok or upsetting people even on the left of the Conservative Party or upsetting noisy people like Rory Stewart and Dominic Grieve, who quite frankly don't belong in the Conservative Party. I hope that Kemi finds that strength to say the things that needs to be said, that the British people want their politicians to say. And I think that is the way, that is the route back for the Conservative Party. Because at the moment, the only politician that sounds vaguely authentic and believable at this moment in time is Nigel Farage.
And that's interesting, by the way. Just very quickly, your response to this, and I'll keep you with me while we do some voice notes. Nigel Farage was not inside the rotunda, not inside the building on Capitol Hill where the inauguration took place, but your ex-leader, Boris Johnson, was. Did you know that?
Yeah, I saw photos of Boris Johnson now. I'm assuming, obviously, that he and Donald Trump did have a good relationship, and I don't think it's under... I'm not going to snipe at Nigel. I suspect what happened is that because Boris is a former prime minister, that therefore there would be a level of seniority involved. And also, the Trump administration aren't going to want to ruffle feathers straight out the gate. At the end of the day, Nigel Farage is a sitting member of parliament, the leader of an opposition party to the sitting government. And maybe they just thought, in the interest of a little bit of diplomacy and goodwill, that they weren't going to ruffle too many feathers.
I've just seen something that's really ironic. The helicopter that's just leaving Capitol Hill with Joe Biden and Jill Biden, their careers finished, they're off to retirement. This helicopter, as you know, used to be called Air Force One and was part of the thing, but the Democrats decided to save money, presumably to pay for all the illegal migrants that came in. So now that he's just leaving on a United States of America helicopter that used to be far more grand. Anyway, I thought I'd share that with you. Right, pin back your logos, JG. Voice note. Let's go to David in Derby. Go.
Just watching the Trump inauguration, it makes you jealous, doesn't it? It makes you jealous of having somebody so passionate, so in with his people, so doesn't look down at anybody, thinking everybody's a far-right thug. It just makes you jealous that someone's got charisma, really cares.
Completely agree. Let's go to Sally in Lincolnshire. Go.
Whether or not the new president fulfills all the promises he's made in his inaugural speech, what a wonderful speech it was, inspiring. Why on earth haven't we got anybody like this here? All they do is talk down the country.
Finally, for now, Dave's in Southend. Hello, Dave.
Can you relay a message to Donald once he's finished these 4 years in America? Can he come over here and sort this country out, please? Oh, God, what a great speech. Inspiring.
There you go, JG. 3 people picked from nowhere, all saying the same thing. Like him or loathe him at certain times, his speech has resonated with millions of pounds. Fighting words from a man who says, I'm fighting for you. God knows we could do with that here, right?
Well, it's no coincidence that when people have won big majorities in this country, and that's your Clement Attlees, to your Winston Churchills, to your Margaret Thatchers, to your Tony Blairs, and your Boris Johnsons, it was done because they offered optimism, they offered hope, they had belief in their country, they were patriotic, and they wanted to make sure that they brought genuine change to the nation and willing to take on the establishment to some regard, albeit I think Tony Blair actually was the embodiment of the establishment, but all the others, I think, were willing to fight against it. And I think that is, for me, something that is so lacking right now in British politics. And I think the only people I sort of hear, sadly, at this moment in time, really thinking outside the box are those reform members of parliament. And I hope, again, as I say, the Conservative Party grabs the agenda. That is, let's cut waste, let's cut the amount of government that's in our lives, let's cut taxes so people have more money in their pocket, but let's also then actually focus on what the government should be doing. Let's have a better run NHS. Let's make sure our police are actually on the streets dealing with real crime rather than what people say on social media. Let's make sure that we've got a welfare system that does genuinely protect those who most need it, but not people just trying to sign off on the dole because they can't be bothered to go to work. And let's make sure that we have an education system that is about education, not about agendas, not about ideologies, but about empowering them and giving over the knowledge and the skills for those future generations to get those high-skilled, high-wage jobs we want in our community.
Couldn't agree more. And the feeling from the viewers and the listeners here is that this man is leading the way. Jonathan Gullis, ex-deputy chair of the Conservative Party, talk presenter. We appreciate you being on. Thank you so much indeed. 17 minutes past 6.